Hello, I am Aviva reporting live in Jerusalem from room 552 for Israel 24/6 TV. Just moments ago, a long, loud siren sounded in Israel across the country. The bus I was on pulled over to the side of the road, so did all of the other automobiles on the street. On our bus, everyone stood up, including the driver. We bowed our heads. In fact, without having seen everyone in Israel, I can safely say that we Jews almost all stood still until the siren went silent. And thus we citizens of the sovereign state of Israel marked the day of remembrance for all Jews of all time whose blood has been shed for this nation, both ancient and contemporary. I was introduced to the writings of Flavius Josephus when I was an adolescent. One need not read many pages of his history of the wars of the Jews to gain insight into the contemporary struggle which we Jews undertook 60 years ago. For with the exception of some of our contemporary Arab neighbors, who would deny that Jews ever lived on this little patch of holy ground, the world, both past and present, knows that just a few kilometers from where I sit this evening, Roman legions breached the ancient walls of the holiest city on earth. According to Josephus, when the city was entered, it was Jewish blood which ran through the streets and washed upon the hooves of horses ridden by the Roman soldiers. According to Josephus, it was Jewish blood which wet the swords of the Roman conquerors, whose orders were enter, kill, burn, decimate, and destroy. According to Josephus, it was the few remaining Jews who were shackled and marched to Rome by Titus himself, and even the Gentile who chiseled the stone of the world-famous Titus's arch testified in that monument, which still stands to this very day, that it was a Jewish menorah from the Holy Temple, which was carried back to Rome to signify the total and utter destruction of the life of the Jews in Jerusalem, as it had been known in those days. Not once in this universally accepted work of the historian Flavius Josephus does he ever say that it was Arab blood that was shed, or Arabs who resisted the Romans for years before finally succumbing themselves to unspeakable sins prompted by internal Jewish political jealousies, thus ensuring their own destruction and the destruction of that most holy of dwellings, the only dwelling made with human hands, of which it is written, "The feet of the throne of the Almighty rest there." And thus when we Jews bowed our heads this evening, we remembered not only those who have fallen in these contemporary times, but also those who fell when our Roman conquerors and our Babylonian conquerors, and those who fell when we left Egypt following Moses and ultimately Joshua son of Nun into this little place the holy writing refers to as Haaretz. And it is indeed the same patch of earth which our Roman conquerors named Palestine. And even in these contemporary times, when Palestine was occupied by the British, identity cards were issued by the British to both Arabs and Jews. Those identity cards declared Jews as Palestinians. One of the costliest mistakes we Jews made when we were recognized as a modern member of the community of nations was to indiscriminately forfeit the use of the word Palestine and Palestinian as it defines our own particular ancient heritage and ancient right to inhabit this little patch of ground. In choosing to name the modern Jewish country Israel and cast off the word Palestine, by default we gave the word Palestine and Palestinian to our Arab neighbors to use as they saw fit in trying to rewrite the history of the Middle East in order to serve their own ulterior purpose. We are now 3 generations into the founding of the modern state of Israel. It is time each of us who have no ulterior motive, whether we be Jew or Gentile, began reminding the Arab world that this land was named Palestine by the Roman conquerors of the Jews in the year 69 CE. Nevertheless, whether this tiny stretch of land is called Haaretz, Palestine, or Israel, it has been inhabited by we Jews since we first set foot here by divine guidance thousands of years ago. Even when we were conquered and marched away in chains, there was always a remnant which remained, and this fact is itself a fulfillment of holy prophecy. Even our return here is miraculous and a fulfillment of divine prophecy. We may be hated, we may suffer questions as to where our borders need to lie, but we are here. God forbid Jewish blood should ever stain the earth again. God forbid we should ever be conquered again. But if that happens, we will survive, and we will return to this place, regardless of its man-given name. For that is our God-ordained destiny. To do battle with the destiny of we Jews is to do battle with the Almighty Himself. I am Aviva Lee, reporting live in Jerusalem from room 552 for Israel 24/6 TV. Thank you and Shalom.